Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Sushma and I'm the people partner here at Log9. Thank you for tuning in to the second episode of InstaShorts. InstaShorts is a series of candid discussions with our founders and entrepreneurs at Log9. In our previous episode, we had our leaders talk about our breakthrough innovations in the last 7 years and how we focused on our journey and how it has propelled our growth. We spoke about the unique challenges that we faced when we were scaling up our operations. Today, we will shed some light on how we seek to create a culture of high-performing individuals, of trust, and of transparency. We will also talk about how our employees connect to our values and how our inclusive leaders are continually promoting empowerment, accountability, courage, and humility. But before we proceed further, here is a small recap of our previous episode.
Well, one of the challenges was that how do you reduce the timelines of taking a product from development to market? For example, we make batteries, but we don't make vehicles. So how do you make sure that the vehicle OEMs can align with our pace and our ideas of taking a product to market? So what we did was that instead of first working with the OEMs, we first worked with the customers. We took a vehicle, integrated a battery on our own, and then took it to customers, did trials with them, took their feedback, and with the customers went to the OEM and said that, boss, this is what the market is requiring. This is what solution we can provide. And now let's give it to the customers which are already demanding this solution in the market. And that helped us to kind of crunch a lot of timelines and do it responsibly so as well.
There's absolutely no barrier to thinking what can be done and what cannot be done. I think we are biased toward action. We are not paralyzed by overthinking. We are going forward, we are brave enough, we understand failures will come on the way and we don't fear those failures. And I think once you give that kind of a landscape to a brilliant engineer or a scientist or a business development guy or a material scientist, that go ahead, do it, create it. You may fail, but we will stand by you, and it's on the brick wall of our failures that our success will come. And that's why our competitors will find it difficult to compete with us, because we are creating things grounds up. The other thing that is very, very unique why we were able to grow from 40 to 400 is because we love to fix things. And I think that's the moat of this organization, that when something doesn't work, we know how to come back, fix it, and make it better to bring it out. Imagine if Intel was only able to prepare Pentium 1, and they never had the ability to learn and come up with Pentium 2 and Pentium 3 and everything that they've done. I think that's built into our DNA. How do I take the first product into the market very, very quickly, learn from it, throw the challenge of learning back to the entire team? Those 25% of our engineers, they're not always building new stuff. They're constantly innovating and improving what we've already built. And that's why, while Log9 people think that we're very aggressive, we're very fast, guys, we are very attention-detailed folks. And the reason we have so much of confidence within ourselves is because we know we can create something, we can take it to the market, we can get the feedback and make it better every day.
Welcome back, everyone. For those of you who have tuned in to our previous episode, you may have recalled seeing our two panelists there. For those of you who have tuned in today, let me briefly introduce you to them. Our first panelist is Pankaj. He is our co-founder. He is somebody who has been actively involved in building deep tech companies, from biotechnology to nanomedicine to a company today like Log9. He loves to keep himself active all the time, whether it be yoga or trekking, you name it. He also plays the guitar very well, and he has built the Log9 music band, our internal band called Rock Niners, from scratch. Welcome to the episode, Pankaj. Our other panelist today is Raman. He is our Chief People Officer. He is an engineer by chance and an HR professional by choice. He has completed his engineering from BIT Mishra and his MBA from XLRA Jamshedpur. He has won the NHRDN Young Leader Award in 2016. During his free time, he loves to spend it with his canine companions, Stevie and Riley. He is a voracious reader, and he plans to read at least one book every week. He's a talented musician as well, and he plays the lead guitar for 2 bands. One is the internal band, which is Rock9ers, and as well as an external band outside the organization. Welcome to the episode, Raman.
Thank you, Sushma.
So, Pankaj, my first question is to you. In the last episode, you had mentioned that, we are a bunch of go-getters and, we are a rock band who are trying to create a magic, together, right? Now, how was this whole journey of bringing people together? And what were the magical ingredients that you used to make this potion?
I like Raman's introduction a lot, that he's an engineer by chance and an HR professional by choice. And I think that it happens to a lot of us, that when we're deciding what we want to pursue, I mean, education is great basis to know what to do in life. But when you want to implement it as real work, you start to look at it from a fundamental perspective: is what is the organization I'm going to join? What kind of work culture will be there? What kind of opportunities will be there? For us, it starts with this set of interviews that we take in the beginning. We're looking for people, we're not hiring only for, let's say, competency, which tends to be the most of the time the case. Is we are hiring people for their ability to think and problem solve from first principles. And once you understand things from first principles, you can dissect that problem, come up with innovative solutions, and then provide something that the world hasn't seen before that. So I think the first layer of selection is very careful done. We are able and we are fortunate enough to find such brilliant talent in India that are building this company with us now. And once people are into the organization, the next best thing was to create a culture that everybody can tap into, something that we all connect with. And it was tough to decode it into words, but thanks to Raman and so many other people, we've been able to articulate what our culture stands for. And culture is how two people are with each other. It's not about how 400 people will conduct themselves, but it's about you and me. It's about two people having how they will conduct themselves as friends, as colleagues, as professionals. And the way we've decoded that is we've broken it down into 9 isms, which is called the culture 9 isms of Log9. And these culture 9 isms are, for example, the first one is ask why. And the idea about asking why is, we all know what we are doing in life, but the challenge is, do you know why you're doing something in your life? And you start with that, because if you understand the why of your pursuit, your what becomes very well aligned to what you're trying to get done. The other big challenge that people, once you have the why articulated pretty well, then you have to apply the first principle, which is the second 9ism. First principle is a very important aspect, because when you understand something at a core ground level, you should be able to explain it in the most simplistic way to somebody who is studying in a 9th grade. And because once your fundamental understanding is driven from first principle, you know what's working, what's not working. The third 9ism that we have is to be direct. Sometimes a lot of people misinterpret it, but being direct is a really, really powerful thing in building startups, because a lot of time you want to say something, you want to communicate something, but you're afraid. Maybe somebody is a senior, somebody is a junior. Am I speaking the right language? Do I have the right filters of communication? Will I come across too aggressive? Should I be more sensitive? We removed all of these ambiguity and say, just be direct. You like something, tell us. You don't like something, tell us. And being direct in the communication removes the fluff of ununderstanding. That's a third 9ism. The fourth one is, while you be direct, you also be respectful. The idea is not to overstep anybody's personal or professional boundaries while you're being direct. You're respectful for who they are, what their thoughts are. You are inclusive, which is the next 9ism, is always be inclusive. Another very important 9ism is having fun. And Log9 is all about having fun. I think we have more fun than we work sometimes, but even when we're working, it feels like, there's humor going on. There's one guy who's soldering a wire and the other guy is like, see the amount of smoke that's coming up. So there's always fun, and fun doesn't have to be just sports. It's always flowing through people, and we're a young group of people. So I think, fun is something, it's always dialed up. Another very important part of 9ism is being very, very ethical. Ethics and being ethical means that you conduct yourself in the most cleanest way, both in terms of your thought, action, documentation, your product development, everything that we do it ethically. The idea is that the company is standing on the pillars of ethics. And that's what gives us the confidence that when we're engaging with a customer, we know we've done the right thing. If any improvements has to be done, it will be done, but we've never taken an unethical route to shortcut to get to success. The last two are very important. First one, the last two is one is debate, and because once you understand something from the first principle, you will always debate. You will never take something that you don't understand. You will always counter question, and that freedom actually allows people to cross boundaries and say, I don't get it. Why shouldn't we do it that way? And it's in those debates that sometimes the right intellect is sitting for the next actions to be taken. And the one nineism that I connect with, and a lot of us connect with, which is very different with a lot of other startups perhaps, is that we act swiftly. It's your ability to act swiftly and not get into analysis paralysis that allows us to build this company very, very fast. A lot of people say that Log9 is making a lot of progress, and it's because of that nineism that we act swiftly. Once we decide what we want to do, there's no barrier to us. There's no overthinking from that point onwards.
Thanks, Pankaj. So, most of our culture nineisms, they go hand in hand, right? Like be direct, but also be respectful. Debate, but act swiftly, right? It's good to see that, they're not standalone by itself, but, they go hand in hand with other nineisms. You happen to mention a very interesting point, that culture is about interaction between, two people, or two teams rather, right? Now, we are a growing organization, and we have remote workforce. We have our people in Delhi, Chennai, all cities. So in this remote sort of a work environment, how can we sustain our thriving culture in this setup?
I think the feeling is more of like a parent with their teenager kid going out. You want them, you want to expand, you want them to go out and explore the world. And as an organization also, I would love to have everybody in Bangalore in one center. That would be the best thing. But we know that the economy is globalized, workforces are globalized, the markets have moved, and we have to go close to where the customer is. And the whole reason we are spreading out in India is because we have a center in Delhi. We have a decently well-sized team operating out of Delhi, and so for Mumbai and Chennai is on the way. It's a matter of being close to the customer and troubleshooting with them. So yeah, it does bring a little bit of angst to begin with, but I think we've been able to crack that piece because we're a very high touch point culture. We talk a lot, we communicate a lot. Every Friday we will deplug. Raman, me, the entire people team, we love to have this something we call the TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And the idea is, what do you do in TGIF is just chit chat, talk about what we've done, what's working, what's not working. So it gives everybody the same common platform to understand what's happening in the company. Nobody feels isolated. And what it does is it brings a sense of inclusiveness. What's happening in Bangalore. Similarly, for people in Bangalore, know what's happening in Delhi. So it creates a very transparent communication among people. As one of the part of our Log9ism was being ethical and being, integrity is a very important aspect of that. It's built into people. When we're inducting people, they have that part of their personality, and it, kind of really gets reinforced because of the way we conduct ourselves in this organization. So primarily, this remote working is on our shoulders as individuals to ensure that we don't let our team members feel that we're remote. We may physically not be together, but we hyper-communicate over, Teams and other messages. And what that starts to do is brings a large sense of responsibility that while we are remote, let's just communicate and sometimes over-communicate. And then find opportunities to fly people in and then, have a Friday evening together. So I think all of these measures, I don't think it's the company kind of a policy that we thought that we're going to do it. People dialed into this working culture. And we created the opportunity for communication to happen all the time. So it's TGIF, then we have Thursday socials, and then we have the Holies and the Diwalis, and so name it. So it does allow people to come together physically also, but when they're apart, they don't feel too far away from each other.
Correct. It becomes a very high touch sort of engagement when you have remote workplaces, right? And it is interesting that you mentioned that integrity and trust are key factors. And I just wanted to take this one moment to tell our viewers that one of the recent initiatives that we have introduced is a no questions asked unlimited leave policy. Yes, you're right, you heard that right. We believe that each of us here are owners of our own space. So which means they have the complete autonomy to choose the leave, to choose the number of days, the number of hours that they want off. We empower our individuals that based on their personal commitments, they can take as much time off as required, and it's a no strings attached policy. So, Raman, on the no strings attached policy, right? I have a question for you. What does this mean? So when employees can take off as and when required, what does this mean for the growth of the company and for the growth of our people here?
Thanks, Sushma. So let's talk a bit about growth to start with, right? So at Log9, we look at growth in two dimensions, one being professional, the other being personal. And if a Log9er grows in both dimensions, the growth is expected to be exponential. So let's break that down further. Professional growth to us is growth in terms of contribution to your commitments, in terms of taking on roles of higher responsibility, in terms of taking on problems which may be beyond your domain of expertise or beyond the team or the squad you belong to. As far as personal growth is concerned, it has multiple dimensions. There's the whole well-being dimension, whether it's physical, financial, emotional, or it has to be with your own personal spiritual growth. So what we look at Log9 is essentially having this two-dimensional approach to growth. This has helped us eventually realize that at the end of the day, if you trust people, you will get trust back, right? And that kind of helped us take this bold policy stance. We heard a lot from our people that the policy was a bit restrictive. Earlier, people used to seek approvals from their managers or to the HR team. All that has gone away now. It's simply put, we operate in these squads. These are self-empowered teams. They look at sort of a one-year goal that they have. They work together to solve a problem which is broadly aligned with Log9's vision. And in order to execute that problem, the way they want to plan their own time in that year is completely up to them. And that's the whole concept of trust. And this is where we've kind of removed all the TNCs. And we hope that people will really make good use of it. I'm really looking forward to people going on backpacking vacations, spending some time in the hills or in the sea, wherever they'd like to, and send us some pictures of how they've enjoyed those vacations. Because I truly feel that growth can happen if one grows both in professional as well as on the personal space.
Thanks, Raman. This is empowerment at the grassroots level, right? And here we have decentralized the whole power from one individual to across everybody, every employee in the organization. But with this much great power also comes great responsibility, to quote Spider-Man, right? So, Raman, now you have worked here at Log9 for 6 months now, and previously you've been associated with companies like Deloitte, with SAP, all of these global multinational companies. And what, according to you, is the difference between working for these companies versus working here at Log9, and what makes our culture here so unique?
With great power comes great responsibility for one Spider-Man, but if you have multiple Spider-Men and women operating in a multiverse, that is immense amount of power, right? I'd say if you look at multinationals, right, there's a lot of opportunity to learn processes, systems, programs, and how they can operate at scale. And there's that learning that you are able to see, you are able to perceive. You get impacted with those changes, so you may not necessarily be involved in the why. It might more be of the what and the how. In a startup, especially in Log9, one of our culture 9ism talks about ask why. What we've done is created an environment where broadly people know what's the vision that we need to get to as a company. We have these self-empowered teams or squads which work together to eventually put together bold and ambitious goals that they collectively address. And when you put together your own sort of problem statements that you want to solve, there is complete empowerment for you to decide the why, the what, and the how. So that, I would say, is the major difference. So what a startup like Log9 has to offer is immense amount of opportunities to solve problems, and that opportunity helps people build their own acumen and skills to solve problems across various domains. For example, the problem may not necessarily be related to the area that the squad is focusing on. There are a lot of problems at a company level that could be solved. There are a lot of problems for the customer, and eventually, we call ourselves, as a company which is focused towards making the planet a better place to live. There are problems that can be solved to help the planet be a better place. So there's a whole gamut of problem solving that a startup like Log9 opens up for people.
Thanks, Aman. I think you've hit the nail, on its head. Here we focus on understanding the problems, breaking it into a fundamental level, and then, kind of go about resolving each and every piece of it, right? Thank you for highlighting the differences so, eloquently. And, further to your point, I just have a very small video clip which I want to show to our viewers here to show how our culture is so unique and so different. Welcome back. It was a super fun and a peppy video to watch, right? So, Raman, now I have a question for you regarding the growth of our company and our engagement with our employees. So the company has grown for about at least 4 times in the last 1 year, and we are looking to double our headcount by the end of this year. The time, the stress, and the cost of hiring and training a new employee is significant for any company, and even for a startup, for us as well, right? And while it is very important to have a good recruitment strategy, it is equally important to keep our employees engaged and reduce the turnover. Our turnover rate is extremely low in the market. And what according to you are the things that we are doing well here?
Many things to start with. I think the emphasis on values, the emphasis on alignment with our culture 9 isms is something that is very important for us, especially at the interview stage. With that, we are able to get a bunch of people to join us who are extremely self-aware. An extremely high talent density. Apart from technical skills, we also look for people who can really, really work around these 9 isms, who have the ability to fundamentally apply first principles, who have the ability to be direct, who have a growth mindset. And that sort of helps us, have some kind of a value alignment with Log9 and how Log9 operates. Further up, we have so many things that happen in Log9 that people just don't want to leave. We have these Thank God It's Friday sessions every other week where Log9ers come together with our founders and leaders, and an environment of extreme candor is created where all kinds of questions are asked to the leadership team, and everybody is open to kind of share their opinion on what's going well and what's not going well. So we can hear from the people and then make certain changes as required. We have so many events. For example, we have Thursday social with each of the tribes. A tribe is a large team, which is essentially a set of squads that come together. And these socials help people deplug and for us to get to know people at an individual level. And we have so many talented people at Log9. At Log9, most of our people have a hobby beyond their day job. Somebody plays the keyboard, somebody sings, somebody plays the guitar, somebody does rock climbing, somebody loves to do some kind of trekking. People love to play sports, and there are so many different people who have so many different interests, which create so much of vibrancy. And we have avenues for each of these, right? So we have the Rock Niners band. We have a group called Ascenders, which is where people go for a trek. Recently, they went for one trek near Bangalore. We have so many different communities where people can come together and engage. We have a community for women. It's called V9ers, where women come together and talk about certain things that are important to them. So this creates an atmosphere where people get to bond with each other and get to know each other at a personal level, and that sort of helps in us retaining people, because when people truly enjoy what they do, they're truly valued, their values align with the company's values, and they're taken care of, and an atmosphere is created where they can bond with each other. They do not want to leave.
Maybe I can add to that. Uh, I think having a low attrition is something of a dream. And when you wanted to understand it further deeply, from a personal experience, I think what's coming on is that everybody, when we are arriving at the office every day, you feel by the end of the day you've done something better. You've grown a little bit from the last day. And there is this sense of optimism among all of us that, I'm getting a slightly better shade of myself technically, intellectually, maybe emotionally, maybe in my team handling way. So there's a certain amount of growth that we're seeing, small growth, additive, very large. And so every day you feel like you're showing up for the training session because, it's like going to the gym. Every day you hit the gym, you become a little bit better of yourself. Coming to Log9 feels like that every day you kind of spend time here, you're getting a little better in the shape of mental, intellectual space. Also, there is a sense that the entire organization, because flowing in one single direction, it feels like you're a bunch of fishes swimming together in a certain direction. And you feel a lot more stronger when we are swimming together. It gets a sense that, all of us are moving in the same direction, and it's the entire team that's pulling us through. Honestly speaking, every individual, in my opinion, at least I, at my personal level, feel that it's the team I do this much and my team does this much and I get amplified, my efforts get amplified. So this ability that you can benefit from other people's hard work and that get recognized for that at the same time is a great opportunity. So you're not an independent contributor, you're not just growing in your own journey. There's a whole system that's designed to grow you along with them, and that sense of ownership brings everybody back to the office. And I think that's what's keeping all of us together.
I think that sense of ownership, that sense of connectivity with the organization is very key, especially for a company, for any company rather, and especially more so even for for our company as well, for Log9 as well, right? Where we are all going, like how you said, the school of fish. We are all swimming together in one direction, right? And my phone has been buzzing now with questions from audience, so I'll take a couple of questions right now. So now for a company like Log9, it's a startup company. Why is culture so important in a startup? And why is it important to talk about it?
I'll go. I think I'm super passionate, like everybody else, about the culture part of it. You said it right. I'm reminded of the culture that I used to have at my home. Dad's busy, mom's busy at home, brothers playing. But the culture, there were certain unsaid protocols of the home. We will all get together during dinner time. We'll sit, we'll eat, there'll be no TV, but there'll be conversation around it. There are certain unsaid things that kind of settle into a family. I think at Log9, certain things have settled in the same way because we had the opportunity to grow from a very small team. And although our growth has been exponentially in the last few years, first few years was a very cared for environment. We were about 20 people, morning till evening, hanging out together in one room or two rooms or three rooms. So that created a sense of sudden rhythm to this organization, which became codified into our cultures by now. Being direct was one of that, which is, we would sit down and talk and debate very, very openly with each other. Because there was no boundaries between, anybody who was part of that particular team. So there was extreme amount of transparency. There was always this candor of, towards the weekend, we were all nerds at the end of the day. We didn't have too much of a social life, so we will all hang out together. The TGIF came from that because it was like, this is a TGIF, what are you going to do? I have nobody else to hang around but the same guys with them. It is that initial 20 people culture that started to magnify and amplify, and it's got settled down. Why this culture is such a big thing, and we are super proud of it, the way it's shaping up, is that it's been embraced by the new people. And this is perhaps what everybody is looking for. Everybody wants to be part of a tribe where you feel cared for, you feel respected, you have the opportunity to grow, and then you have some really stellar people to learn from. So I think as long as people are walking into a very safe, cared for environment where the growth is not a barrier, and you're not somebody who is in a large organization unseen. Even in 400 people, we know everybody by their name. There's no hierarchy. Everybody walks into each other's room. This freedom, this ability to feel comfortable is a central piece of that culture. And so I think a lot of people talk about that the companies are built on the great products and services. Yes, for sure. That's the revenue part of it. But if you really don't have the right culture, that's not sustainable. I would rather have a smaller company with great culture than have a great big company with a toxic culture. And I think that's the mode in which Log9 is growing. Maybe Raman can add to that.
Absolutely. In fact, many of the companies in the startup ecosystem have sacrificed culture for sheer growth. We hear so much of news of companies, ramping down or companies not treating people well. And eventually, because of that, what ends up happening is the growth is like a sine wave and it's not exponential. And if the growth needs to be exponential, then there needs to be focus on something very fundamental where people really feel comfortable and they can grow just from 20 people to the 400 number that we are here today, like Pankaj was mentioning. So the role and the compensation can bring people into an organization, but it is the culture that holds them to the company. And we truly feel that if we can create a culture at Log9 which can really make people feel empowered, which can really make people have transparent conversations, which can really, make Log9ers accomplish our long-term goals, I think that's the end of it. I think that will help us achieve our broader purpose, which is to pioneer responsible energy.
We have a question from a viewer. He says, this question is to you, Raman. How does the culture get toxic, or when does it become diluted?
I think culture gets diluted when people do not demonstrate behaviors that have been carved out as a common set of behaviors for the company. When an organization is small, right, the founders demonstrate those behaviors and people have that touch point with the founders through which they engage with the founder and are able to sort of, role model them in some extent. But as the company grows bigger, crosses the Dunbar's number of 150 people, it's very hard to maintain, personal relationships with a number of over 150, and that's where we are. And therefore, it's extremely important that the culture gets codified, like we've done here in Log9. What we've done is we've essentially articulated what people felt was our culture. We didn't create it. It's just basically the brain dump of over 200 people who we had at that point of time who said that we feel Log9 is all about acting swiftly. We feel Log9 is all about debating, being direct, etc. And if those behaviors are not, consistently displayed by all the leaders, by all the people at the organization, the culture becomes toxic. So it's extremely important that whenever we are having work-related interactions, or even for that matter, even personal interactions, it's important that those behaviors are something that we hold each other accountable for.
And there's a follow-up question on that again. So now, would you say that this becomes toxic or this becomes diluted due to bad hiring decisions? Or is it because of bad management skills by the managers?
Maybe I'll just take a stab at it and request Pankaj to add. I think it's a combination of both. I think at the hiring point itself, it's extremely important that there is a culture, there is a value alignment with the organization. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody needs to demonstrate all 9 of those behaviors. It just generally means that there is a significant overlap between those behaviors and what the person who's interviewing for is looking for, right? And if that alignment is there and there's a skill alignment, that's a recipe for success. And there are, of course, a lot of things that each of the individual brings into the organization which may be unique. And we can see that as a culture add and not as a culture fit. Management decisions eventually boil down to 2 things. One is the decision aligned with the broader vision? And the second is the decision aligned with the core values? What we have done at Log9 is we've articulated a set of core values for us, being passionate and entrepreneurial, being fearless and humble, being ethical and environment obsessed. Just to give you an example, all our products in some shape or form have an impact in a positive way on the environment. The reason why we call ourselves environment obsessed and the decisions that we've taken as far as our products are concerned, being environment obsessed, is because every product helps in some shape or form reduce carbon emissions and helps the planet become a better place. And therefore, whatever products we get into will eventually tie back to the climate. If there is a decision that's being taken that is not aligned with the climate, then we will not do it because that does not align with our values. So those are a couple of things that I feel the culture being diluted can be prevented from. Pankaj, open to your thoughts.
Yeah, it's always when the problem arrives, you want to appoint the the responsibility. Did we hire somebody bad? I'm of the opinion that even if you hire somebody bad, the culture is, the resilience power of the residual culture is so large that person will find an opportunity to transform themselves. And it's, in fact, it has happened. Not a bad hire, but I would say somebody, sometimes you're looking for a technical competency and then you bring them in and then you see that there is a slight unalignment. What I have seen is that there is a huge willingness in people that if you give them the right environment, they lose the rough edges very fast, and they become very polished into the direction that we are all swimming towards it. So I don't think we've ever had that huge an opportunity where there was one individual or somebody that we got into the organization and then the toxic culture started to happen. In fact, it's a real test of the culture that if your culture is so weak that one bad hire can come and make it toxic, then your culture is anyway sitting on a weak side. I take it as a challenge that give me a wrong hire and we should be able to bring them into the beautiful culture of Log9. And if you're not able to do it, we should introspect ourselves.
That is very true. I completely agree with that. Yeah. We have another question now. It says, so we are a very small company now, and it is easy to listen to employees' voice at this stage. How are we planning to scale this up in the future when our headcount is growing logarithmically?
So there are multiple ways you could listen to your people, right? At Log9, we have multiple listening mechanisms. It's not just one survey that goes out to people every quarter, asking them for feedback about their peers and about the company, through which we get a sort of a net promoter score for the overall company and for all our leaders, and also clear feedback around the 9 isms for all our people. But it's also done at a team level, which is at a squad level, where team members are expected to be direct to each other and give each other feedback. And apart from that, also at a tribe level, when we have these social events, there's opportunity for people to know each other better so that they're able to then, in a professional setting, come back, establish that emotional bond, and then have frank conversation and provide feedback to their leaders. The TGIF that we have is a great opportunity for people to provide us feedback. What's working, what's not working, what may not work. And so we've had a lot of conversations regarding some of our policy launches. What if this doesn't work? What if people abuse the infinite leave policy? What if this certification or the career charge program is something that people abuse? But at the end of the day, what we realized is these questions help us get that feedback and make changes to the policy or respond to them appropriately, so we are able to hear people very clearly. Personally, I'm extremely pleased to have these sort of power walks. In the evening, I have my cup of chai and I meet our Log9ers one-on-one. And I love to walk around the campus. We have an extremely green campus here. About 60% of the campus is just greenery, along with our Chief Entertainment Officer, Buzo, and his associates, and also an organic farm here. So it's a great place to actually walk around and have a conversation and really get to know from people how they feel about Log9, how they feel about some of our people practices, how they feel about the culture and what can be done. And if there is feedback that's coming my way, I make it a point to take it back to my people team to have that problem addressed so that we can come up with a solution to address that in some shape or form. So listening can happen at multiple levels. The ability to listen is something that I feel organizations need to do, and especially at Log9, I think we've started doing that and we are learning from that.
Also, one of the interesting things that we've done is we knew that we're gonna scale in a certain direction, and we wanted to codify the growth in the structure of the organization. So typically what you have is the same set of people come together in one department. So you have, let's say, the electronics department. All the guys who understand electronics will sit in together. All the guys who write software will sit together. All the entire admin will sit together. So it's like, what you end up is a highly concentrated group of people with the same skill set sitting in one place. And what that promotes is that you have to have a lot of cross communication, collaboration to get something done. Early on in Log9, we realized that probably that structure may not work for a deep tech company like us, because we are a very interdisciplinary bunch of team members that have to come together to solve one problem. Like deep tech products requires one engineer, one software guy, one mechanical guy, somebody from embedded and all of that. So why, if these very different skill sets have to come together and solve one problem, why are we putting them in separate teams? So what we did was this tribe and squad system that Raman talked about it, is that within one squad what you have is everybody is pulled on from different departments and put under one squad, so that squad is responsible for one particular product or the OKR that they may have. What it starts to do is that you don't have to run around the organization asking for an admin support or let's say supply chain support or somebody to write a software for you. You're not requesting department to department. You already have somebody from that skill set available in your squad. And then you have a complete all the skill set that are required to execute that project within that one squad. This is a scalable model. In my opinion, as we grow from 400 to 600 or 700, we will continue to have this model and will not let the squads grow too large. 8 maximum people in one squad is good enough. And then as you have a larger number of people to do certain product, you make another squad. So keeping that brick structure, the organizational structure in a certain way allows you to scale up without having the typical challenges is that, as the companies scale up, there's a huge isolation that happens between departments. So we were lucky enough to get onto this and give credit to Akshay for getting it done. And I think that's coding the growth strategy for us now.
That's great. We have another question from Ganesh, which is on how do you drive a positive work environment? Like how do you make the entire work environment that it becomes in a positive direction and not have any negative aspects or connotations to it?
Yeah, I mean, if you dial it down, where does the negativity start? The negativity typically starts with a sense of insecurity that somebody carries within themselves, and because of that sense of insecurity, they are very limited in their expression. They are very reactive. In Hindi, we say kriya ki pratikriya. Something happens, you just react. The idea is to first eliminate that insecurity among people. That you're not here to prove yourself as an individual. And you're not here in a survival mode that, what, as long as I'm able to do my work and I can squeeze somebody else's for my work, it starts to promote negativity. So I think the good thing at Log9 is we all understand that the company is not running because only I'm working, because there are these other guys who are working with me and cumulatively we are all responsible. I'll go back to the second point of the structure, which ensures that negativity doesn't creep up. When you create one squad and everybody of different talents is put into one squad, everybody is tied to the same OKR. So it's not that each one of us, I may have been doing well, but if my team member is not doing well, I don't get penalized or I don't have an effect of that. That's not how it is here. In a particular squad, everybody is tied to one OKR or one target. And if there are 9 people or 8 people who are trying to deliver something and 6 of them are working really well, but 2 of them are chilling, not contributing, it's the responsibility of the remaining 6 to escalate it up to those 2. And if the entire team does well, the entire team takes the credit. If the product doesn't come well, even the guys who work really well get a tough point to being asked that why did it not get delivered. So what it does is you remove the sense of insecurity and you bring the sense of responsibility among a group of people. That's how. So you don't make one guy as the bully in the company or bully in the department. And the other thing is this Log9ism, when we say being direct and being transparent, everybody is visible in this organization. So if somebody conducts themselves in not something that does not align with Log9ism, there are multiple touch points from which it gets visible to everyone. So it's in favor of everyone to be there, to conduct themselves with what they've signed up to, is to be a Log9er. And I think not operating from insecurity, being responsible for your work, and being completely transparent in an organization, those are the 3 pillars based on which I think we've been able to ensure that the negative work culture doesn't creep into it. Maybe Raman can add to that.
I think that's very well summarized, Pankaj. I just want to add that the 9isms help us also get a 360 feedback from the fears of a squad in a quarterly basis. And these 9isms actually help all Log9ers grow. And in some sense, say for example, if a couple of people in the squad are chilling and they're not really contributing to the squad's goals, right? And it's not about the number of hours being put in a a day or a week. It's not about visibility to the immediate manager. It's about ensuring that outcomes are driven. And, the how of driving those outcomes, rests completely with the squad, and how they want to go about do it. And if those outcomes are not accomplished, then the squad has that opportunity every quarter to give each other feedback through which, each of the squad members develop in one area of the Nineism that they are expected to display. So that kind of reinforces this fact. There is absolutely no politics here. It's completely about coming together and ensuring that we all, are able to live up to the same culture code that everybody is expected to live up to, and each of us hold each other accountable. So it's not about, one manager saying that, okay, great, I don't think you've done well. It's the squad coming together and saying, team, we've not done well, or we have done exceptionally well, and here is why we did well. Here is why we did not do well, and here are things that we should probably do well. And that kind of creates a holistic responsibility, and that responsibility percolates to each and every squad member so that they can take charge of their careers and make things better for Log9.
Can I add that point on 360? Maybe I don't know if some of our viewers know more about how we conduct our 360, what this 360 is all about. So I talked about how do you ensure that negativity doesn't creep up and that nobody is a bully or nobody is completely operating from a sense of insecurity. Let's say somebody is operating from a sense of insecurity or somebody is being very dominant as a manager. The system that we put in place to ensure that that doesn't percolate and we are able to take corrective action in that is there is this something that Raman talked about, which is the 360-degree review. We do it every quarter. Now what happens in this 360-degree review is for every individual, it's a confidential disclosure that team members around that individual do for everyone. So if there is every individual, everybody 360 gets submitted. What happens in the 360 is 2 of your peers, 1 of your seniors, 1 of your juniors, minimum 4 people will talk about every individual, and they will talk about what's their area of development, what is it that they're doing wrong, any incident that they thought that was not correct, and all of that stuff. Now what happens is in an organization where everything, if you don't do it confidentially, then perhaps a junior may not have an opportunity to speak about a senior and escalate it out, being fearful that we may get judged and all of it. So what we've done is we made it confidential. It's a Google form. Everybody once every 3 months sits down and fill a form for each other. So suppose my senior didn't speak to me in a way that was appropriate or as per the Log9ism, I have an opportunity within that quarter to escalate it out in a very confidential way and says, this individual demonstrated this, which was in alignment with that. And all of that 360 gets captured, and in a confidential way, we are able to see the entire data. And then we sit down with everyone. The entire 400 people sit with each other. And a lot of work for people team, I know, but it was easier to do it when we were 40. But you sit down and you open that conversation up to an individual and you say, you know what, this is how you're perceived in the organization. The feedback is the breakfast of champions, and when that unfiltered feedback comes to everyone, everybody knows that they are visible. You just cannot demonstrate that's not in alignment with Log9 and get away with it. I'm not saying it creates pressure, but it creates responsibility on everyone that we will all conduct ourselves in a certain way.
There are still a couple of more questions, but I think we are also running short of time at this point. And I think maybe we can take one quick question. And so there's this question from Abhi, and he asks, how easy or difficult is it to scale up process, product, technology, numbers, culture, everything? Like how easy or difficult is it to scale up?
So on a continuum of very easy to very difficult, scaling up, probably for all these different parameters, it's very, very different for each of them. And it completely depends on, how the environment is. Let's take an example of product, right? If the electric vehicle industry wouldn't have been on the sunrise in India, if we did not have the right government subsidies being introduced for the sector, if we did not have certain governments take action and also implement certain laws which help us to electrify fleets, we would not have been in a situation where we see a market and we can go and tap into that and go into battery production. So there is a huge, sort of influencing factor, which is an externality. But having said that, I think having, some purpose, which is to pioneer responsible energy solutions, having a clear vision in what we want to get to, having a clear code of conduct and culture actually helps you take those bold bets, looking at all these externalities and then, taking onto one of them. If you look at any of our processes today, right, we're not saying that, we are the best in terms of processes. There's a lot of chaos that's out there. But when it comes to taking a decision between putting a process and, optimizing for agility, that's where Log9ers come together and use the 9isms in order to take the right decision and either put the process or move swiftly and go ahead and make a change. And there have been multiple examples. The Corona 1 product, for example, was brought to market just in a matter of 2 weeks. We realized that the country is going through not known before kind of a pandemic. The idea was conceptualized. It was not in line with the whole climate focused strategy or the vision that we had, but it was the right thing to do at that point of time. And the Corona 1 came out of our R&D department. We went ahead, commercialized it in just a matter of 2 weeks, and within 2 weeks we had the Corona 1 selling on Amazon and various other e-commerce platforms, and pretty much in high circulation in Bangalore, especially in the police stations here, to kind of sanitize the whole COVID infections that people were having. So to take these bold bets, an opportunity or a problem that we see out there is something that Log9ers want to look at. We keep a close tab on that, and basis that we take actions which can help us in alignment with our vision to kind of create these products and then take them to market.
Thanks, Raman. So I have a question to both of you, and we are in the deep tech space right now, and we are the thought leaders in this whole aspect as well. And in this current space that we are in, talent by itself is in a very short supply, and women even more so, right? So as an industry leader, what are we doing to be more inclusive?
Maybe I'll start and have Pankaj share his comments. I think the effort is threefold. First of all, I think there is a very strong focus on changing the mindset, changing the culture, and changing the process. And if you look at a mindset change, the 9ism of being inclusive helps us realize that a different point of view than yours is something which will eventually help us succeed. For example, if you take a diversity use case, we have somebody in our manufacturing associate who's actually leading a team of about 180 people, who's a supervisor of supervisors. Now, would you, in some sense, look at a woman handling that kind of a responsibility? No, but we have that happening at Log9 today, because we truly feel that if you really empower, people by looking just beyond gender, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity that can get unlocked. If you look at culture, right, we've looked at very interesting ways of bringing the right people into our organization. One of the things that we've started doing is essentially reaching out to all these campuses and connecting with the students, because we know for a fact that the supply in the STEM space, in the deep tech space, from a gender perspective, is very skewed towards men. So we've reached out to these campuses and we are trying to see if we can partner with them, if we can launch certain projects. We have signed an MOU with IIT Delhi, for example, and see if we can get a supply of women from these campuses directly. And that gives us a great opportunity to also bring that connect between campus and corporate. The third piece of it is the process itself, right? Unless you have the right processes in place, it's extremely hard to build a diverse culture. We've started a program through which we're looking at out of 4 candidates, at least 1 woman who should go through the interview process. We've also started something called as an international fellowship program. We've reached out to a lot of E and B schools across the globe, many of the Ivy League schools as well. This fellowship program will be a 3-month program where we have very diverse candidates from all these universities abroad coming in and working with us as interns and sharing their academic knowledge with us, but at the same time taking away some of the practical use cases and applications of things that we work on. So these are some ways that we are looking at. We are also looking at broadening our scope from just one strand of diversity, which is women, to folks who are senior. We have many people, so the average age of Log9 is 28. If you look at just the R&D function, a lot of our people are in their low 20s. The average age would be probably 23, 24. But the average has been brought up because we have people who've come from large multinationals who really want to make a change, who really want to build things ground up. And these are people who are in their late 30s, some in their 40s, one person in their 50s as well, who's joined us and who's really helping us from a generational diversity standpoint. And beyond that, we'll obviously look at other areas like pride, persons with the different abilities and things like that. But the idea is to create an environment where you can bring a person who has a difference of opinion from yours, fundamentally, and not just focus on certain demographic elements, but also to bring in people who have a very diverse way of thinking. Pankaj, anything you'd like to add?
I think very gongo about the fact that we are increasing our diversity pool. It's 50% of the world population, which is the women population. You look at such brilliance awaiting to be tapped into, and I think it's an opportunity whenever we get somebody who's done engineering, being a girl or a woman, to have an opportunity to work with them. Personally, I've observed that that diversity, what it brings is a very different point of view onto a problem solving, and it's just been amazing that as we are finding more and more talented women to come and work for us, that just the culture, the richness of the conversations, simple things, the aesthetics of the office, everything takes the right turn. So I think it's a blessing to have as much as diversity as possible, and very strongly proponent of the fact that we should joke ourselves that we are the mechanical department of startups, all boys college, all boys school, and all boys company. But it's great to see that women have gone ahead, done their BTechs, MTechs. We do find a lot of women who apply to us who have worked in fundamental sciences, for example, material science. We have few purely from their PhD and postdoc days that have done material science and chemistry work. So I think the diversity is very great, but also the talent that they bring to us is something that is phenomenal. So I think it's an opportunity, and we continue to look out for great candidates who bring such different point of view and different way of looking at life for us.
And thank you, Pankaj, for talking about women in STEM, because that's a very nice segue for us to actually introduce the next episode which we have, which is upcoming, which is we are going to talk exclusively about women in STEM in that particular episode. And as a closing remark, and we are just barely running out of time right now. So if you had to quickly, very as a wrap up, give one message to all the people who are watching us today, what would that be?
So we pioneer deep tech solutions for a sustainable planet. So if you'd like to join us and embark on India's journey towards clean energy and want to build some amazing deep tech products with us, come join us and become a chief of climate action.
Fantastic. I think the other very important thing is I think this is a place where I see everybody unlocking their potential. So I know you've done your studies, you've gone through different experiences in life, but if anybody wants to explore more how to build deep tech technologies, whether it's through collaboration, partnership, employment with Log9, I think the opportunity is now to create India in the image that we always wanted for it to be created, which is to create on a substantial self-reliance on deep tech. And I think at Log9 we have the opportunity. Happy to get into conversation, whether you want to work with us, talk to us, or just simple chit chat. We're open all the way to revolutionize this nation through deep tech.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Raman, for taking time out today and talking in such great detail about our culture, values, and growth philosophy. I also want to thank our viewers today who have been participating so actively in these discussions and asking us so many insightful questions, right? If you have listened to our previous episode and to this episode, and if you're interested in career opportunities with us, please log on to www.log9materials.com/career and apply. And thank you and have a great day.